Hey guys, Drock here, and this is a video that I've wanted to do for a little bit. Basically, just catching you up on what's been going on in my life since my last life and health update video about, I guess, 5 months ago now, whenever October was. So I talked about this a little bit in Ash's recent video when I did a collab with him about finally having a diagnosis for all the stuff that I've dealt with for the last 8 months, and we're going to get into that, but I just want to shed a little more light on kind of what I've experienced over the last 8 months, not for pity or for sympathy, but rather to, I guess, help other people that have gone through things similar to me or that are dealing with struggles in their life, whether it's health related, whether it's something completely different, to know that, there's a light at the end of those tunnels. Because for me, the last 8 months, have been really tough. And I've had some tough moments in my life. When I was 11 years old, my mother died of lung cancer. When I was 16, I left my house and lived with different families for the last couple of years of my high school experience. When I was in my 20s, I had 8 surgeries that left me with severe chronic pain in my shoulder and in my knee. And then also had some injuries that left me with chronic pain in my ankle and back. I say all this because up until the last 8 months, those were the things that I dealt with in my life that were the most challenging things that I had experienced. And certainly the health issues that I had in my 20s that really changed my ability to be active, lift weights, that led to me starting to gain weight. All those things I thought of as being some of the hardest things or the most, frankly, depressing things that I could have ever dealt with. And they did. They put me into a depression for a very long time, even though I wasn't, I think, willing to admit it or own it. But these last 8 months have been, without a shadow of a doubt, the hardest thing I've ever experienced in my entire life. I mean, genuinely, I mean that. And they came completely out of nowhere in terms of, yeah, I had some health issues, and God knows I was certainly way overweight, but not like what I've experienced. And so I wanted to share my story, share my diagnosis, and share, I guess, my hope for those of you out there who are dealing with something similar. So to catch you up, when I got out of the hospital, it was the beginning of October. They hadn't been able to diagnose what was wrong. I'd been there for 9 days. They thought it was heart related because I was having heart palpitations and I have a history of atrial fibrillation, but no test was specifically showing that. I'd had gastroenterology tests done when I was in the hospital, and those were clear. I had pulmonary function tests done when I was in the hospital, and those are clear. Basically, nobody could figure out what was wrong. And so when I left the hospital, at that time, the only symptoms I really had were heart palpitations, difficulty talking for long periods of time, tightness in like my left arm, as well as an occasional little bit of dizziness and lightheadedness. But for the most part, I was able to function. Little did I know that over the next 5 months, my symptoms would get progressively worse in a big way. And it's a big part of why my content started getting less and less frequent, because I felt worse and worse and worse, really into this last month where things got significantly worse. And we'll get into that in a second. But I got out of the hospital. I still had lots more tests to do to try to figure things out. Then after like a month, I started having like stomach issues. And then I started having anxiety attacks because I was dealing with shortness of breath and panic attacks, things that I had never experienced before, really ever, and certainly not on that level of consistency. And it got to a point where I wasn't sure. I was like, what's going on? Like, am I losing my mind? Genuinely, I wasn't sure. And the reason why is I've always been someone who's been pretty straightforward about when I feel bad. Like, I know when I feel wrong and when something's wrong in my body, and I know when there's not something wrong. And everything was telling me at that time something was wrong in my body, that there was something not working, that something that was being missed, that wasn't connecting, and that the doctors just weren't seeing it. But the doctors weren't seeing it, right? Every test that I did was coming back negative. And so I had to essentially evaluate, like, look, maybe this is in my head. maybe I am going crazy here. I don't feel like it, and I feel as rational as ever and as logical as ever, but I have to, entertain that thought. And there were a couple of doctors too who are like, oh, it's anxiety. Oh, it's stress. It's this or that. And so I went and saw a therapist, and a psychiatrist, actually, believe it or not, because I wanted to be sure. I wanted to know for sure, like have someone evaluate me, make sure I wasn't losing my mind. And both of them said it was not that. It wasn't anxiety. It wasn't stress. Though I'm sure those things were worse. And we all agreed that I was having a lot of anxiety as a result of what I was going through, for sure. But they gave me some more hope. They made me feel as if, yes, there's something wrong here. You need to keep pushing. And so that is what I did. I saw rheumatologists. I saw physiatrists. I saw cardiologists, cardiology electrophysiologists, the psychiatrist, the therapist. God, there's so many doctors that I've seen over the last 8 months. I frankly can't even remember all. But here's the crazy thing. Even outside of that, I spent money on genome testing. I spent money on extensive blood work. I've literally had over, God, I don't know, probably 120 to 150 vials of blood taken out of both of my arms in the last 8 months alone. No joke. It's been hell. It has been hell. But I wasn't going to give up because I still felt wrong. And I was getting worse, right? I was in LA and I started to have stomach issues. And then I started to have pain in the center of my chest more than I was having before, pressure, tightness in different areas of my body, suddenly in my neck and in my jaw. And it scared the shit out of me, to be completely honest with you, because I wasn't fully convinced that it wasn't a cardiac issue. I was having all these palpitations and all this chest pressure, jaw tightness and the shoulder tightness and the arm tightness. Like, what the hell was going on? And so I'd been feeding all of my stuff and all of my tests as I got them into ChatGPT to try to figure it out because I really didn't know where else to turn. And when I got back to Florida, I was still putting things into ChatGPT and I'm still not getting an answer. But funny enough, there was a mentor in my life who'd been checking in on me over the course of the last 8 months. And he said, you should really try to put your stuff into Claude. I didn't even know what Claude was. I didn't know that was another AI program, but I said, okay, it can't hurt. No one else can seem to figure this out. And so I did. I put quite literally, 200 pages worth of tests into Claude between my genome sequencing that I got back, between all the blood work that I'd done and everything up to that point. And in the meantime, I also scheduled an appointment with a functional health doctor. So very different from any other doctor that I'd seen. And not like your typical functional health doctor that's like, oh, let me give you some herbs, but someone who really believed in evidence-based medicine, but then would also look into, alternative stuff on top of that. And I didn't pick her because I wanted the alternative stuff. I just picked her because I wanted somebody to go through all of my paperwork, quite literally all of it. Because I have found in the medical system that doctors just don't have enough time to really sift through all of your stuff if you have a complex case that doesn't have a clear answer. And that's why I think a lot of people default to, oh, it's depression or, oh, it's anxiety or whatever else it could be. But so I put all this data into Claude and it came back with an idea. It said, hey, Drock. Well, it said actually Kendrick because that's my name. You might want to look into mast cell activation syndrome. I'd never heard of that. I had no idea what the hell that was. I had already been made aware of something called dysautonomia, and there were a lot of things that I have that were lining up with that, but it specifically suggested mast cell activation syndrome. So I told my functional health doctor while we were doing some additional blood work, I said, hey, can you test for this? She said, absolutely. I don't necessarily think it's that, but it's worth a try. We'll do that. And so I went and I had to do 24-hour urine tests for that and more blood work and all sorts of stuff. And in the meantime, my symptoms continued to get worse. I still had the chest pressure and tightness and the, heart palpitations. But then I started to have rolling waves of fatigue. I'm talking my whole body just going through me like a wave of fatigue, of dizziness, of lightheadedness, and occasional vertigo, of difficulty standing up and walking to the sink. And then the worst symptom of all started, and that's just been in the last month and a half, by the way. And that was the symptom of internal vibrations. And I know that sounds crazy, trust me. If you had asked me 8 months ago, is that even a possible thing? What the hell is an internal vibration? I would not have known what you were talking about. But I can tell you without a doubt that I certainly know now, and my God, they are. Imagine if you were riding a motorcycle, but the motorcycle is inside your body. Imagine you're shivering, but there's no outward movement. It's all inside of you. That's quite literally what every day of my life has been for the last month and a half. Rolling waves of fatigue, palpitations when speaking, palpitations when getting excited. You remember that video I did with Scratch where I got excited because we pulled a Solinar? As soon as I pulled that Solinar and showed excitement and got loud, I started having heart palpitations the rest of that entire video. I had to pretend that it wasn't happening. I didn't want to ruin the content. And again, it's why I haven't done as much content, and it's certainly why I haven't been able to stream, because I physically do, which is a really weird thing to say after quite literally 5 years of pursuing this as a dream and speaking for 10 to 12 hours a day and entertaining people and singing songs. It's been, again, the hardest thing I've ever dealt with, because I can't be myself. I can't be me. If you're someone who's dealing with a medical thing or a mental thing or a family thing that makes you feel like that, I just want you to know, truly, you are not alone. There are many, many people out there the same. And that's been one of the big things that's helped me. I've talked about Ash being there for me, about my coworkers at AMG being there for me, my family, my sisters being there for me. One of them's a physical therapist, or not physical therapist, a pharmacist. She's going to kill me if she sees this video. One of them's a pharmacist. The other happens to be an emergency room doctor. I'm very blessed. My dad, my adopted father being there for me, people that love me. They've helped me get through this, even as they didn't know what's going on, even as I'm sure some of them thought maybe it is in his head. Again, I had even thought. But all that brings me around about to my diagnosis. And finally, in the last 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, we got back lab results that were really abnormal, things that were way out of the spectrum of what you're supposed to see. I had some abnormal results, insulin resistance that was super high, and some stuff that in my heart that was potentially a problem down the road that I have to be aware of, but nothing that could explain at least some of what was going on until those results came back and they were positive for mast cell activation syndrome. It was really validating. I'm not going to lie. When people tell you that something is anxiety or tell you that it's in your head and you feel so different to the core of your being, it's really hard, especially when they might have lots of degrees and be significantly more trained in medicine. But God damn it, I never wanted to believe anything else. I know my body. I know what feels right. So to get that diagnosis, to see that on the lab reports and to see those markers that indicate that was really vindicating. But I didn't fully believe it. I was like, you know what? I'm getting this from my functional health doctor. I need to see an immunologist. And she was also the one who suggested that. I needed to see an allergist. And I needed to confirm it because it still wasn't real. So that's what I did. I went and I scheduled an appointment with an immunologist. And I went to her office feeling terrible. Again, every day I feel terrible. I spend most of my day in bed, quite literally. This is about as much as I get out unless I'm going to a doctor's appointment or unless I really push myself to maybe see a friend for a meal. It's hard, which is, again, insane to say, but and I went to the appointment. I remember going in there and I have all my lab results and she looked them over and she said, you know, Kendrick, I see people all the time that think they have mast cell activation syndrome. Quite literally all the time, I have to tell them they don't. She said, you're one of the 2 people I've seen that actually do. Stuff is off the charts. You definitely have this. Now, that's a blessing. I have a diagnosis. I have a path forward. For the first time in 8 months, I have a little bit of light at the end of my very dark and very, very frustrating tunnel. But here's the thing. This isn't something you just cure. It sticks with you for life. Once you have this, once it appears, it doesn't go away. It's something you have to manage. It's also something that doesn't get better very easily. I got put on medication. Candidly, it's made me feel worse, which is funny, which is maybe, to be expected. Your body has to adjust, but at least I have some level of hope. And that's really why I wanted to make this video. Yeah, I wanted to share what's been going on with me. Yes, I wanted you guys to know why I haven't been streaming, why I haven't been as energetic maybe in some videos, why I've been dealing with all these things. And the other crazy thing is, I lost 80 pounds in the last 8 months. Realistically, I lost 80 pounds in 5 months. And normally when you lose a bunch of weight, you feel good, feel excited. I haven't been able to because I felt so damn sick every day. Again, getting worse and worse and worse. So I share this story because if you're going through something similar and you know something's wrong and you can't figure out what it is, do not give up. Do not quit. Do not stop trying to understand whatever the problem is. And again, it could be a myriad of things, but just don't quit. Because if you do, you'll never get the answer you need, right? You'll never figure out whatever it is that is. It would have been really easy for me just to accept that I felt bad because I had anxiety, or I had a panic attack because I had an anxiety. I knew deep down that wasn't the case, and I'm really glad that I didn't listen to doctors that told me that was the situation. Now, I'll also say there were a lot of doctors, not a lot, but several doctors, I should say, that I saw who said, no, I think you have something systemic going on. Don't know what it is. Can't figure it out. I don't have the full picture, but the symptoms just don't make sense for it to be solely anxiety. Those doctors, I say, thank you. Thank you for encouraging me to continue to pursue a diagnosis. Now, what does this mean going forward for me, for this channel, for streaming, for my content? I frankly don't know. I think my videos, I've been a little more energetic recently, and I've had a little bit more ability to speak. And frankly, that collab that I did with Ash, I couldn't believe it. I made it through the whole thing. That's the longest I've spoken in one sitting in the last, 6 months. And I made it through, and I didn't have a ton of heart palpitations. I felt okay. I felt tired, and I didn't feel great, but I made it through. And that was encouraging as well. So I guess what I'm saying is I just hope that I can get back to my version of normal. My chronic pain, maybe not fat. I'd like to keep the weight off, though I will say it certainly is hard being back in Florida and being kind of in my bed more than I ever was in LA. But I don't know. We're going to try to treat this thing, the mast cell. I still have to see a dysautonomia doctor as well. That's unfortunately extremely difficult to get appointments for. It is not easy. There aren't a ton of these doctors around the country. Basically, none of them take insurance. So all of this stuff is out of pocket. My allergist and my immunologist paying out of pocket, right? And I'm lucky enough to be able to afford it. I'm not a wealthy man by any stretch of the imagination, but I've at least been able to afford the medical care that I need. And I know a lot of people aren't in that situation. That's a really hard situation. That is a really, really tough one. I feel for you if you are one of those people trying to get healthy in this country. Sometimes feels damn near impossible if anything that is out of the norm. Is mast cell activation syndrome and dysautonomia everything that's wrong? I don't know. I don't know, candidly. There are other things going on still that don't 100% track with those things. There's still a lot of chest tightness and chest pressure every day, every moment. Right now, sitting here talking. So there are other things that I'm going to have to look into. But I wanted to make this video once again just to share a little piece of my story. Hopefully provide a little bit of hope. Hopefully hope to those of you who are going through something similar or something where you're struggling. And I guess just let everyone else out there know that you can find some sort of an answer. You can find some sort of a light, even if it isn't the brightest light for your tunnel. It can be there, and not to give up and pushing. And the other thing I want to say is, and I said this in Ash's video, but I want to say it again here. I'm just so incredibly grateful to all of you for the unreal support that I've experienced over the last 8 months. You know, when I'm live streaming, it's not that I'm playing a character, but you know, everything's exaggerated. Reactions, my excitement, appointment, my anger, frustration, because I want to put on a good show. I want people to laugh and smile and love me. And well, I don't want them to hate me, but unfortunately sometimes people do. It just kind of comes with the territory when you're out there and putting yourself out in the, but at the end of the day, I just want everyone to know that I am genuinely, truly grateful, thankful, and appreciative of all of the people that continue to show up to watch my content, that comment on my videos, that interact with me in the Discord, that have positive things to share, whether on my video or other people's videos, that participate in this community. And I never thought that Raid Shadow Legends would be the content that I would be making in my life. Like, it's a funny thing that this is the game that for whatever reason resonated with an audience, but I am just really lucky that in spite of all the difficulties I've had in my life, and certainly the difficulties that I've experienced in the last 8 months, that I've been surrounded by some incredible people, both in my direct community and in the community abroad. So I just wanted to end this video and say thank you. I really appreciate you being there for me. I really, really appreciate the support and the understanding as I've dealt with this. And just know that I am doing quite literally everything in my power to get back to being the 100% authentic me, so that I can get back to streaming, get back to screaming, get back to singing, get back to laughing, just get back to doing what I love. So that's it, guys. That's the catch-up video. I hope that explains a little more about kind of what's been up in my life. I'll do another one of these in 5 or 6 months, and hopefully at that point in time, it will be a very different video where whatever medications I get on and whatever treatments I have to do have had a positive effect and helped me to myself. I just want to say I love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. And again, I hope that whatever's going on in your life, whether it be health, whether it be family, whether it be here, that if it's something challenging, that you lean on the people that love you. You lean on your community, whether it's a community or another one. Persevere and don't give up. Pretty much it. All right, guys. I'll catch you in a video soon. Thank you so much for watching. Papa Drock, out.